touch on just some of the transfers that have come in, because it's always fun when those announcements are rolling in, and then it gets to about, game one, and we're like, who are some of these players? I felt that a lot last year too, just like, all right, who's this guy? Who's that guy? So, not to just brush myself up, let's brush everyone up here on the transfers that are coming in and what transfers excite me the most. And of course, this week was the NBA draft, and while you know Cooper and Kohler or Denim Wojcik, as I saw a great TikTok that was disappointed. Wojcik didn't go number one overall to the Wizards. So we'll talk about where they're going for their pro basketball careers, as well as an update on a former Spartan who's taking their next step in their basketball career. And then finally, we're going to touch on just why it's time for the university to move on from J Bat, because we see through your game plan, sir, and it's just time to get going. So I'm excited. So like, subscribe, leave a comment if there's stuff you want to talk about. If you want to find me on X, I'm at RyanEL_key. You'll see it scrolling there on the bottom line throughout the show. Make sure you follow, of course, the voice of college football at the VOCFB. Just like that, Dylan Dingler hitting a bomb. Tigers only down 1. There we go. We need this win, not just for getting back into the wild card race, Central, just for morale. I feel like that's where we're at too with Michigan State. We need wins just for morale purposes. We know where we are. We just need some wins. But to start off with the transfers that are coming in, of course, we have the exciting ones. Like, we have the Cam Edwards that we know that's coming in, and we're all excited for where Cam Edwards from UConn, rushed for over 1,200 yards last year, had 16 total touchdowns, and that is a big get, just to have someone, a bell cow, because out of all the returning backs, Brendan Tullis was the only guy with some meaningful time that is back on this Michigan State roster. So to have Cam Edwards come in on this and to be your starting back, I think is just going to be huge. But the biggest problem for Michigan State the last few years has been this offensive line. And that's kind of the group I'm most excited about that came in, because that's one thing it looked like Pat Fitzgerald, really hammered in, was getting a formidable offensive line to come in and fill out. Of course, Connor Moore is here still, so he'll be slating the right side. But to start in the middle, you lose Gublin to the draft. He was great. To replace him, we go out, say, hey, the Lions, their offensive line is great. Who's our offensive line coach? Hank Fraley. Where are your kids? That's who we got. We got Hank Fraley's son, Trent Fraley, out of North Dakota State. He's going to be fifth-year senior, 13 starts at center last year. I'm excited for him to just mesh into that middle of that line, be the leader of that offensive line. And, of course, coming with Cam Edwards from UConn was Ben Morawski. Start 12 games at left tackle. 6'7", 340 pounds, redshirt senior. And that's humongous beef that you just need. And so it's nice to have those anchors on the outside, and you get Trent Fraley in the middle. And how can we just not be excited, or at least hopeful, of what just the start of this offensive line already is? And even to have a first-year quarterback, Tigers lose fall to 1, or even to have a returning quarterback, Alessio Miljovic, I will promise I will at some point get that name down. It's those Slavic names. But to have Alessio back, which just is huge in itself for a first-year coach into a program, to have a quarterback that had some games under his belts, 4 starts last year and played well. Alessio, I think we were all excited what we saw out of him last year. But the one problem with Alessio is that, and even Aiden Childs, is that it didn't matter if it was a 3-step drop, 5-step, 7-step roll out. No time. Absolutely no time. Just quarterbacks getting beat up left and right. And so to have Fraley and to have Morowski and to help, just solidify that line, you, you have Rustin Young coming back. You have AJ Dennis. So it's like we just needed more people. We need more people because as we saw over the years, even when felt like there were some good pieces on the offensive line, they didn't stay healthy enough. So, and brings us to our next transfer coming in, another offensive line, Nick Sharp coming in from, played at Wake Forest a little bit. Was at South Carolina last year, but 5 starts at left guard. So all of a sudden we're seeing the trenches built through this transfer portal. And that's one thing that you just had to address immediately. I trust Courtney Hawkins enough with the wide receiver room to where there can be questions there, but there's a track record of him, developing that talent in that room. So I don't need a splashy wide receiver. I need some beef just in the middle, just to take care of business so we can run the ball, so we have time to develop a passing game. Because that was, the downfall of Jonathan Smith is just we just didn't see good enough play in the trenches on either side to really sustain any type of momentum in a game. And so to get Fraley, to get Morowski, to get Sharp, and even bringing in Robert Wright, 6'5", near 300 pounds from Georgia Southern, but hey, 11 starts at right tackle last year. Even though you have your tackle spots kind of sealed up, you need that depth, because as we saw with the injuries over the past few years, you just need offensive line depth in college football. And Wright coming in as a redshirt junior, hopefully we get 2 years out of him. And I'm excited just for this year. Nick Sharp, he graduate senior, hits his 6th year. So with Fraley, Morowski, and Sharp, more, it's all their last years. But you get Robert Wright in to hopefully kind of be that spell offensive lineman to help fill in. And I'm excited what Pat Fitzgerald did in this transfer portal season to kind of solidify that offensive line, because that was it's hard to build an offensive line just straight through recruiting. It's going to take time. We got the 4-star Charles Johnson coming in. He gets to come in. He doesn't have to play immediately, and that's nice too. He can hopefully sit, learn some. If he can get some time playing, that'd be great. But hopefully it's not a necessity that he needs playing time, that it's more of these early games of playing Eastern, playing Toledo, that we can get them in and get them a little experience. But we can rely on these transfer guys that we brought in, and hopefully it meshes well quick, because with Game 3 Notre Dame on the schedule, we don't have time for tomfoolery on the offensive line. And so with the offensive line brought in through the transfer portal, that's going to help Cam Edwards a lot too. So that's the thing that excites me the most about the transfers that came in. It seems like, Pat Fitzgerald had his eyes on what was needed most and went and attacked it. And to kind of build and sustain that offensive line, it's going to be important, especially for the start of the season. Now we flip to the other side. We flip to the defensive line. The transfers brought in not a lot of Power 5 experience. So brought in Trey Lyle, coming in from Southeast Missouri State. He's a redshirt sophomore, so some years to grow on him. But, just eight games played last year, half a sack, 4.5 tackles for loss, 16 tackles. We'll see about that. Kenny Soares played under Pat Fitzgerald at Northwestern a couple years ago. It was at NC State last season. 8 starts, 80 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, half a sack. And then we have Keenis Thompson coming in from Weber State, 9 starts, 4 sacks. So Isores is your Power Five experience, not a lot of production, but some familiarity there. That's been the other bugaboo about Michigan State over the last few years. I mean, how many games did we go last year without a sack? I mean, that's just downright embarrassing for a Power Five team, especially a Big Ten team, to go. What was it, the first 6 games without an official sack? And well, I love what was brought in on the offensive line. The defensive line still raises a lot of questions. We hope that things turn around. Maybe Max Bullock can coach them up. Maybe we see a different style of off or defense from Joe Rossi to kind of mix it up, mix those what they show on that line, and we can get some pressure in on the quarterback, because that was also a huge disappointment over the last few years under Jonathan Smith. Is just you're asking your corners to do a lot, and with the way the health went in the cornerback room the last few years, like you needed your front seven to step up and do something. So we all know Jordan Hall's back. We all love Jordan Hall. Definition of Spartan dog. I mean, he's been through Mel Tucker. He's been through Jonathan Smith. The fact that this man is staying for another coach tells a lot about his character. And I think we all love Jordan Hall through and through. But to bring in a counterpart for him, the way Matthews going, bring in Deion Crawford from Buffalo, dude is a tackle machine, 81 tackles last year, 3.5 sacks. So hopefully we see Deion Crawford get in the mix and on these blitz packages and kind of, wreak some havoc for this Michigan State defense, because we need some help, because the secondary, the big get was Trey Ball from Iowa State, who's a stud. Like, we still need a lot of help. I was a huge Aiden West fan. I loved 5-star Aiden West, but he transferred out to Minnesota, and that hurt me to the core, because he got some playing time throughout the season. I loved what I saw out of Aiden West. But when there's a coaching change, you can't blame a kid for testing his options, to not knowing what's coming in. And he's off to Minnesota, or I'm sure he'll have a great year for the Golden Gophers, which is sad to see as a Spartan fan, but glad he's got another opportunity to go play. And of course, we get a familiar name back in Chuck Brantley. We all know Charles Brantley, the one-handed pick off Cade McNamara to seal that huge win over Michigan, which now was 5 years ago. And that's something we sadly are living in the past of, is that Kenneth Walker year was 5 long years ago. That's the last time we had a true competitive team. Chuck Brantley went to Miami, and I guess he just went there for sightseeing, because not a lot of playing time for Chuck there, but he's coming back, and anybody in the secondary is needed. It's been a rough few years for the health of that secondary. Nakai Martinez is back, but that man's he's put his body on the line, has been in and out, and that's one of the big questions. I mean, it's sad that the whole defense is a big question coming into the season, but that's the coaching side of the coaching ball we trust the most. We get Pat Fitzgerald, rugged defensive minded coach. We keep Joe Rossi, with most of us were fine with, because as the season went along, it was less about what the defense was doing, because it felt like they were playing well enough. It's just the offense wasn't giving them a chance to catch their breath or to stay in the game. And we bring back the prodigal son, Max Bola, as the co-defensive coordinator. It's the biggest questions we have. And from what we brought in, did we bring in enough? Because yes, we have Jordan Hall back. We have Nakai Martinez. They're guys that are representing us Big 10 days. We have Derek Simmons down low, Ben Roberts. But, defense, we need more than just those four guys. We need all 11. All, as my old football coach used to say, I'm sure yours say, 11 on the hat, 11 on the ball, 11 hats on the ball. Like let's get to it. We just need to see more of that. We need to see, hopefully from the start, just shut down these inferior opponents, and let's give a hell of a game to Notre Dame. That's really what we want to see for that first quarter of the season. Is, do we look just like a competent football team? Because that's just been hard to see over the last few years, and hopefully we see some growth over the season.